Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and guests unveil astrology's ancient archetypes that continually build the collective experiences in our unconsciousness. Get ready to find your free will from your roots in the stars.
Well, greetings. This is Sue Rose Minahan with Talk Cosmos, May 4th, and there is a repeat show on Thursday, May 9th, and it'll be in the morning. It's like a sunrise, sunset. I hope it works really well. But tonight we are in the archetype of Taurus, and we're doing Uranus in Taurus. Uranus is the outer planet. It shifted the entire mentality of thousands of years because it's just after Saturn, and Saturn was the limit. So Uranus breaks that limit. It reforms, you might say, into a vision of new possibilities and potential. It also came around when science was evolving, and the world does progress on an evolutionary basis in many ways, physically and consciously, and our minds. When it comes to Uranus and Taurus, this is a 7-year cycle because it is an outer planet. It takes that period of time to really continue the 30 degrees that it takes, and it'll go forward and from Earth's perspective go backwards when many times we reassess in essentially that energy, because everything is energy. So this is a very new start and a shift for humanity at this time, and it's global. It's all across the world, of course. It affects everybody. It's not just here in Seattle, Washington. And last year, in fact, we began talking about Uranus in Taurus because it entered it and then it retrograded back to Aries, and then now it's returned for certain. So if you did want to check some archives, you can certainly go back to Talk Cosmos and check that out. And tonight's subject is a revolution in resources. Technology relates to Aquarius. Taurus relates to the second sign of the zodiac, which is the vessel that the spirit comes into form, and it is concentrated. And this has been discussed at various times and is what astrologers are aware of course. But you combine the two, and there's many options. One is, if looking at astrology as far as, well, not astrology, but mythology, is that the sky, Uranus, and Earth, Gaia, they have this, well, from the very beginning of time, as far as our time goes, a great relationship, or let's say a relationship, which has both possibly not always so great, as far as the hardships that have been occurring with Earth. But tonight's talk will center a little bit more about the science of the possibilities because we are evolving in consciousness. Science is here to stay, and it can operate with us in many ways. So the guest is a return guest, Madam Ximon, and she is from Bainbridge Island, which is right off here, Seattle area in Washington. She's an archetypal astrologer, a tarot reader. She's featured in Chapel of Sacred Mirrors in New York on a regular basis. She's studied the divine sciences for 30 years, and to a great extent of Lilith and all of its forms. Madam Ximon is a consultant, an instructor, a lecturer, and a visionary fine artist, and intrigued with this technology. So, hi, Madam Ximon.
Hi, Sue. It's very nice to be here with you tonight.
It is. It certainly is. And this is a subject that there's so much involved. I have clippings, and there's ones covering it, so many about, we know that there's pollution and etc. But lately I've been finding ones where there's technology really being discovered that helps measure. I think it was with the EDF, Environmental Defense Fund. They have a solutions magazine that is published. And what it said is, meet the fourth wave, a new era of environmental innovation for powerful ways to protect nature. They were here. I'm speaking a little bit. I could have said this before I said hi to you, but what this particular article was mentioning is that it went back from 50 years ago, that even our cell phones that we have today have as much power as the modern, as how they viewed the NASA going out into space, which I thought was remarkable. And okay, I'll finish this thought here and then we'll go on. But what it was saying about the fourth wave is that it was just one technological innovation, and that they're going back to, like, the first could have been Teddy Roosevelt when he wanted land conservation, and then in the 70s that there were laws to combat pollution, and then in the 90s there were market-based solutions. And now what they're saying is this fourth wave builds on that progress with technological advances and all these tools. One of them in particular is measuring gas emissions, because it's an enormous percentage of the pollutants in the world, and there haven't been methods, but now they're gaining. The EDF is working with, I can go into it more, but anyway, working with various education institutions like Harvard and Stanford, and going to be able to calculate how to help companies find out what gas is leaking, and then they can sell it, and it'll reduce maybe a fourth of the methane, the gas that's warming the globe. So I was thrilled to see that. So what's on your mind? What areas were you looking at in particular that excited yourself on this?
Well, okay, so there's a variety of, ideas and topics that can come under this heading of Uranus and Taurus.
Yes.
Uranus is a planet that is oriented toward change, sudden, drastic, shocking, intense change. But, also revolutionary, asking us to reconfigure our mindset about and our actions about whatever it's touching. And in this case, it's in the sign of Taurus. And Taurus is a fixed earth sign. So it is, it's like the roots of the mountain going down into the earth.
Beautiful.
And so it doesn't like sudden shocking change. It likes things slow and steady. Since I'm an archetypal astrologer, I want us to really start with those kind of two images of Uranus, this planet that's oriented toward mental and technological pursuits, but also speed and change, and is, mythologically speaking, a sky god.
Yes.
And then Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, who likes things to be pleasurable and is concerned with material resources, and is, wants us to enjoy things on the physical plane. And also, like I said, wants to move very slowly and steadily. Okay. Um, I do want you to be aware, before we plunge into this topic, I am going to include some astrological terminology in connection with the themes that we'll be talking about here.
Oh, sure.
But alongside those terms, I try to repeat key concepts in layman's terms so that you're not lost in the dark.
Are you talking to me or to the audience?
To our audience, absolutely.
Oh, okay. Very good. Thank you. Yeah.
Because I believe knowledge is power. And I want our listeners to be able to get some basic familiarity with some of the fundamentals of what we're talking about, so that you know where I'm getting these interpretations from.
Exactly. References are useful, and I agree. And I applaud a little just description. That's perfect. Yes.
So Uranus entered Taurus at the beginning of March. So we've had now a couple of months to experience that influence. But you know that it in comparison to the entire 7 years that he's going to be in Taurus, that's kind of a drop in the bucket. But now with the sun in Taurus, we're right in the heart of Taurus season. Okay. And the sun represents the light of consciousness, and that's shining upon all things Taurian. Okay, so material resources, food, the body, okay, and pleasure in our physicality. Okay, so the sun conjoined Uranus in late April, and that means that it was in the same degree in the sky as Uranus. We have a heightened awareness of Uranian themes right now that have had a bit of time to percolate. Okay. There's been time for us to consider the impact of technology, the impact of Uranus, and these ideas of change and revolution on the material world. Okay. And then on top of that, today, the new moon in Taurus is now getting our emotions and instincts along for the ride. Okay, because the sun represents the light of consciousness. That's a conscious understanding, but our emotions and instincts are more on the subconscious level.
An extremely potent day. It's only been a few hours. That's absolutely correct. And of course, new moons for the audience do occur every month, but in the fact that there's this alliance, this conjunction, as it's called in astrology, is very powerful. So well put. Yes. I mean, it's good to, as a base. It's very good.
So we're now being encouraged to radically change our relationship with our material resources. Okay. And in the process, we are being given this opportunity to see how we've previously been captives of all of the trappings of material security that in fact do not keep us secure. Okay. Oh, yes. Uranus is about freedom. Okay.
Yes.
And so when we're looking at the ways in which we have, set up structures and systems that, that pollute the environment, that strip resources, that doesn't actually keep us secure. That keeps us in this state of fearfulness about what happens when it runs out.
No, it's not sustainable at all. And fortunately, that's the drift that is going for. Yes, exactly, going forward.
So we're being invited now to reassess and reconfigure our values as a result of what Uranus is showing us about the possibilities for Taurus.
And that's perfect. Values definitely are fundamental to Taurus, in order to have those priorities. Yes.
Okay. So this is a perfect time for us to be having the show and talking about this, because for those who work with the cycles of the moon, the new moon is the time to set new intentions for the coming month. The better to take advantage of the planetary alignments that are going on in Taurus, right? So that we can achieve our long-term goals under these ongoing planetary cycles. Okay.
Yes.
So, this is all also going on against the backdrop of the ongoing Capricorn convergence, which is Saturn, Pluto, and the South Node all coming together in Capricorn, which is another Earth sign like Taurus.
Yeah, very close degrees. It's a steady march. It's going forward, yes.
Right. Okay, so this is also happening while the North Node in Cancer is asking us to create families of the heart, communities of the heart, so that we can nurture our planet into a state of greater emotional and spiritual health by nurturing our communities and nurturing our human connections. Okay, so when you combine all of these forces, that gives us a real chance of surviving and even thriving in the material world. But first, there is this massive abyss of centuries of colonialism, genocide, greed, racism, sexism that we need to confront, to be willing to know what it is that we're changing. Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn are showing us where our more destructive habits are not willing to give up so easily. Okay, but Uranus in Taurus gives us this capacity for sudden insight, these aha moments that we're likely to experience directly and even bodily because they're in Taurus. Okay, so we're likely to feel, like, to really feel what it is that we're knowing.
Yeah, visceral, or at least our body will give us a direction, and because if we don't listen to it, it will be sudden. Whether we, now, I know I just broke my hand, my wrist, so I understand. It's like you get messages in many ways, and it is through the body. Very important.
Right. So then we can translate that knowing into new ways of using our technology and our systems in relation to our food, our water, and every living thing on this planet. Okay, so during the next 7 years of this transit, we need to be brainstorming new ways of combining technology and nature and giving those brainstorms physical form. You know, there's been this past attitude that that the natural world was something to be subjugated by technology, okay, and that these two were at odds with each other.
Yeah, that's that particular belief. Everything I read, I have this wonderful little book, Great Essays in Science, and it's just thought by very famous scientists and thinkers. But even in any kind of historical looking back, it started way back, this separation from nature, back to Greek times, really. So it's something where nature, instead of being like we're cooperating, I think at that time with Greece, the mentality was flourishing so much. The golden civilization of Greece, with the wonderful medicines and philosophies coming out that we still use as a basis. But the problem is that the physical was just shunned as bad nature, the instinctive. So yes, what you're saying is a long, long legacy that we are really trying to unify and have a chance to reconnect.
So right, there has been this long divide, but now this particular transit, we have an opportunity at a time when we really need to heal that divide. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. If critically speaking, yes, like all addictions, our treatment with the earth has getting down to the very worst possibility. Well, we never know really what is going to happen, but it is time. It's very important.
Yeah, so one of the kind of ideas I'd like you to think about, that I'd like people to consider at this time, Uranus has an association with electricity, right? And Taurus has an association with the body. That combination, bioelectricity, okay? Just that combination can show us how it is that we can think moving forward about combining nature and technology in positive ways. Okay, so an example of this is in 2013, there was a building that was built in Germany that has plates of glass, effectively sandwiching algae, this kind of algae goop in the outer walls. And so they're exposed to sunlight, being on the outer walls, and are able to photosynthesize sunlight there. And in the process, that creates electricity with which to heat the building.
Oh, that's fabulous.
And it insulates the building for more efficient heating. Okay.
Oh, this is definitely the right direction. Yes, I love that.
Right. Okay. So, that's one example of a Uranus and Taurus kind of combination that we can build upon those concepts moving forward. Things like bioremediation of pollution also is, a way of considering how do we take what we know scientifically and use it to help nature rather than harm nature. Okay, Uranus likes inventiveness. Now in Taurus, that spirit of inventiveness might move more slowly than it did in Aries, which was the past 7 years where Uranus was transiting. Okay, because Taurus doesn't like to be rushed. But that means that working on the day-to-day level of physical habit is actually more likely to yield the brilliant results that Uranus is known for. Okay, so Uranus is being asked effectively by Taurus, hey, if you're going to do this change thing, can you do it at a kind of a more slow and steady pace? And Uranus is asking Taurus, hey, can we just speed it up a little?
Yeah, time's of the essence, exactly.
Okay. Now, as I said before, this is happening against the backdrop of the Capricorn convergence. Okay, so that has Saturn in his home sign of Capricorn this year and the beginning of next year. And that emphasizes patience with process and disciplined use of physical resources, especially pruning away what we no longer need, not using things in a wasteful manner. Okay. And, that combination, Saturn governs structure. So I see that being the kind of energy then that increases the appeal of green building techniques and permaculture. Okay. So that we can provide for, our housing and our food, but in ways that are less harmful to the earth. And that has this potential twist then of, bringing this high tech into alignment with nature, rather than having it be less body friendly chemical and biotech stew that has contributed so much to the pollution and toxicity of this planet until now.
Yeah, I was just noticing an article. It's just one article in this EDF environmental magazine, and the very fact that there's cities, particularly in California, where there's so many active oil and gas wells, 3,500 of them, yep. And that cancer is 8 times higher. So in other words, they have ways of monitoring the air quality and such as that where we can really begin to show the direct cause and recreate better health. As you were saying, we can't be using resources that are going to be, well, there are other resources besides oil and water. There is the sun, there's the
wind, air.
And
that's uranium.
Exactly. Yeah, and the tides. The tides, that's a possibility too, water. And I've often thought temperature changes could be, if science were to develop, it's a routine process. Every night the temperature drops 20 degrees at least. And I would imagine that there could be a lot of, if I was a scientist, I'd get that figured out. But I think that's a possibility somehow.
Well, now keep in mind that this is not all utopian in terms of the possibilities.
Well, you have to reach. No, there's a lot of solid things. I've got a whole pile of little references that we could talk about along with what you're saying. But you also have to just totally, Uranus is throwing out as far as it can, just what like the black hole. You know, people would go, no, no, no. But now we know the black hole is there. And I think there is a certain part of the mentality that needs to just throw it, the hook out as far as you can into the sea, you know, and then troll in the thought. So that's why I thought, you never know. There's so many ideas that could maybe get blended. We're going to take a brief break for an announcement, and then we will come back with Madam Ximon talking from Bainbridge Island, Washington, about the revolution of resources on Talk Cosmos. While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We're currently in the period of Taurus. By leaving a cycle based upon initiation, the energy of Taurus integrates spirit into a solid form of matter that is tangible and physical. It's an earth sign, concerned with self-sufficiency and the values to maintain the strength of a life form throughout its survival.
Salutations from space! This is storyteller Gemini Brett, and you're listening to Talk Cosmos on Alternative Talk 1150 AM, where we peek through the veil at astrology's ancient archetypes.
Working hard to put a smile on your face. Alternative Talk 1150.
Welcome back. Hi, this is Talk Cosmos, May 4th, repeating on May 9th with Madam Ximon, Bainbridge Island, Washington, talking about the revolution of resources, Uranus and Taurus.
Yes, so we were starting actually to go into kind of, the almost science fiction-y kind of ideas related to Uranus. And I was cautioning that, we have an opportunity here to improve things, but that doesn't mean that that's necessarily the way it's going to go. Uranus is related to uranium. Okay. So there's the potential for things to get even more strange in realms, both biotech and nuclear, including nuclear medicine, especially with Pluto in the mix via the Capricorn convergence. Uranus is notable as the planet of the computer age. And in Taurus, I think he increases the likelihood of leaps forward, both in transhumanist technologies and the desire to adopt them. People engaging in biohacking, people using implants to increase their information gathering abilities or connect with computers more directly.
It's already, yes. People have chips in their hands, it's true, arms.
Absolutely. Or even more advanced crossovers between humans and technology that really transform our understanding of what it means to be human. The world today is completely different from the world of the 20th century simply due to the internet. Okay. It
is like akin to the printing press. The dispersion of information not only is rampant, but it connects like neural cells, in our brain. For instance, there's also some technology that's showing that once again, electrical shocks very mildly can assist people that are aging, that aren't able to think in a positive way. And so anytime you have any kind of information like the internet, it's exploding those synapses. Yeah, on a very real manner. It's significant. You're right.
And the thing is that the change that happened due to the internet happened within such a short period of time and took our technology forward so much faster in such a short time, and so much further than it had been going for centuries before that.
Well, very much like Uranus. You're right. It just shoots it. It's like that vision of light in the lightning storm. It's just explosive. Goes, yes.
Right. So now we're looking at, with Uranus and Taurus at this time when we're already experiencing such major technological leaps, we're now looking at Uranus accelerating that. And so there's a real question of how do we keep pace with all of that change, okay? So that brings us into today's new moon. So this new moon in Taurus is happening right in the middle of Taurus. So we've got both our consciousness and our unconsciousness are inclined to be their most Taurus-like at this time, okay? Slow, steady, change averse, wanting to enjoy life, and wanting to have creature comforts, okay? Now this is being reinforced by Venus, who is the ruler of Taurus. Now she's in Aries and squaring Saturn in Capricorn, so there's a challenge there. But it's making it so that the Aries desire for speed is being tempered by Saturnine patience and seriousness, but both of them are emphasizing achievement again, okay? So this new moon in Taurus is steady and stable, and maybe doesn't want to take the Uranian changes to heart just yet, but there's also a boost from Mars in Gemini here. That is making our energy more willing to act on behalf of our ideas. And Mercury in Aries is sharing a mutual reception with Mars, with each of them in the sign that's ruled by the other. And that helps them to work together better. Okay?
Definitely, yes.
And Uranus is considered to be the higher octave of Mercury. Okay? Right. So now when you've got something that's emphasizing or helping Mercury in any way, then those two inner planets here are providing some kind of personal electricity that then helps to motivate us on Uranus's generational scale. And since you know I specialize in Lilith, I couldn't bring a talk here without bringing in Lilith.
Yes.
Okay. The true osculating black moon Lilith is still in Aquarius and is trining Mars for this new moon. And that gives us mental energy that we need to live our truth at this time, so that our communication reflects our most deeply held beliefs, and our actions are best suited for seeking new information and new ideas to back up the revolutionary action of Uranus and Taurus.
That's significant, because looking at the chart too, I'm noticing that it is sextile, which means 60 degrees from Jupiter at 23 degrees Sag right now, which is not that far away from the galactic center of 27. But also it happens to be in conjunct, which means that it's 150 degrees, meaning that the reason these terms are, for just briefly for the folks, is that from the ascendant, there's like a blueprint, and the relationship would be that there's certain signs that couldn't be easily seen from the opposite sign. So at any rate, and what it means is that it's a little, in order to coordinate those energies, you need some help. And here Lilith is helping. That's the point. I like the way that you said needs to be authentic, because if you have this really set survival, and it's almost 14, I mean, it's right at the almost 15%, 15, not percent, but 15 degrees, which is a very unstable, because 15 right in between is not, well, it's really, well, you could say it's 15 degrees because it's 14, 11, and 10, 11. So in other words, that's the most unstable of Taurus, of any sign. I mean, right in the middle of any degrees.
It's the most stable, yes.
Well, no, unstable. It's the most unstable because, well, different ways of looking at it. It's stable but unstable because it can go in either direction. I guess there's that thought.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was looking at it as being within
Yeah,
the
I know.
so.
And I'd have to recheck that, but I thought that it stuck in my brain. But the point being, regardless, because Taurus is very stable, so regardless, it's going to be in that position of Earth. So what I'm returning to is this fact that you brought the square, this tension oriented, where got to find a resolution. It's like coming to a corner, you could say, and the water's rushing in, and it's going to go somewhere. So Lilith is saying, be authentic in bringing back that focus of Jupiter, which is the belief structure, the vision of seeing the big picture. So that's
and really, also having faith, having optimism,
which is right, but it's good point. But it's difficult because of its 150 degrees in conjunct to the new moon. So I'm seeing that sextile to Lilith as being very advantageous that you brought up.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's this new moon coincides with the T-square formation. So you've got Mars in Gemini at the midheaven, almost exactly at the midheaven.
Here where we are, yes, in Seattle.
Right, opposite Jupiter, who is retrograde in Sagittarius right now, at the nadir.
Exactly.
So both of them are squared to Neptune in Pisces. That's the relief point of the T-square.
Okay? Angular, and all angular, at least here in Seattle. And so that makes it, yes.
Right. So Mars at the midheaven puts our actions forward to be received by the world. So this is a place where we're encouraged to be very public with the changes that we're making to aid our planet and transform our relationship with our material resources on a personal level as well. Okay. And then Jupiter retrograde at the nadir pulls up beliefs from our subconscious for reconsideration, to help us make use of wisdom from our roots without, and at the same time, having the faith to expand the horizons of our vision. And when it's opposite to Mars, that challenges us to heighten our courage as we do so. So that gives us a greater capacity to reject poisonous habits based on outdated beliefs and shoot straight into the heavens with optimism and audacity. And that is fueled by this square to Neptune that challenges us to dream big.
Yes.
And if you combine all of that with the future and space orientation of Uranus, I wouldn't be surprised if this new moon conceives some new advances in our exploration of space. Still grounded in the need to protect both Earth and skies here at home on Terra, right? Because Mars is martial. Mars is about, Mars is like a good bodyguard at your side. I don't remember who said that, but it's
it is a defender. Yes, I mean, Mars is one of the things that defends causes.
Absolutely.
And Neptune also relates to the wild, to all of nature. And so, yes, seeing recalibrating our identity or our perspective with nature and how to put forth new direction that's very, very strong. It's beautiful. It's right, because even looking at the paper, for instance, the headlines, it says it seems to, it's reflected is what I'm trying to say. Some devices that could invade your life in 2019. And there's all these tech trends, artificial intelligence, and etc. It's not a passing energy, that it is something that is being harnessed. And in Seattle too, there was another one, if I can find this little article, that says that Seattle once again is very, very active when it comes to scientific, I wish I could find that one, but at any rate, so now I'm just feeding off of what you're saying, that yes, it's very current and important, and it's here. The energy is.
It's here, and this entire month of May, we've got some great transits coming up this month that can help us to manifest the intentions that we set under this new moon.
Oh, good.
Okay, so on May 8th, Mercury conjoins Uranus and Taurus. So that means it's at the same degree in the sky as Uranus. And Mercury in Taurus is actually only very briefly in Taurus this month, between May 6th and the 20th. Okay. Now remember, my background's in tarot. So when I see Mercury in Taurus, I see us facing our worries about material security. And then this Mercury-Uranus conjunction, beginning Mercury's transit through Taurus, gives extra impetus to our thoughts and communication about our resources. And we can choose to make use of this to help us make mental connections and plans at a more steady pace than we were when we were, kind of rushing through our thoughts in Aries. Yeah. The Aries season was a little intense.
Good day to earmark, yes.
Okay. And having Mercury effectively carrying forward then that energy of Uranus moving into Taurus helps us to create new habits and systems while we transition away from what we no longer need. And then our vision, because, remember, we have to be able to see the possibilities first before we can act on them. Our vision is going to get some gentle help from the Sun in Taurus, sextile to Neptune in Pisces on the same day. So that combines Neptunian imagination with Uranian inventiveness, but still keeps us grounded and fully conscious through the process. Then on May 11th, the Sun in Taurus trines Saturn retrograde in Capricorn. So that gives us the discipline and patience to work steadily on our material well-being and on giving the boot to the material trappings and habits we no longer need. It's not a glamorous combination.
Well,
but it's practical.
It is. And Taurus exactly is that. It's the second archetype. That energy has come into form. It wants to live. It doesn't want to let go of that form it's created because it's life, and so, yes, it is grounded and it is practical. So well put. Yes.
But in this case, it's not a grind because Taurus does actually enjoy doing the work. And Saturn in Capricorn also, says this is what we're supposed to be doing.
There is a goal.
Right. Okay. And then this is followed on the 13th by a trine from the Sun in Taurus to Pluto in retrograde in Capricorn.
Say that a little bit slower for people, if you would. Yeah. On the 13th, there's a trine between, go ahead.
The Sun in Taurus and Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. So remember, Saturn and Pluto right now are very close to each other. Okay.
Right.
So the Sun is moving then from a trine with Saturn to a trine with Pluto. Okay.
Right.
So that gives us then a boost of power from Pluto. Okay. To keep the work going that we were getting positively disciplined about with the Sun trine Saturn.
Well, ideally, it will give us that power because Pluto is either power or powerlessness if one's not going forward in a direction that is serving their best for life support, you might say. Pluto will take it away.
But that would be more with a hard aspect. And we're looking at a trine, which is the most
you're right,
aspect that we can have at this time.
Except, I'm agreeing with you, except I have to say that sometimes trines can accentuate what is, they can accentuate something more. It's at ease, but it can also just embolden things, it doesn't necessarily force a person to make a change. I do, and Pluto, in fact, it might give a person great strength to tear down some of those things that they've recognized with the Iranian, because I really like this idea of mentioning clearly to ourselves and to folks that the Sun, there is a cycle and that things do happen on a regular basis. But here is what you've identified. is that it went from Uranus and it's going to Pluto. So here they see maybe what's the new vision, or else what needs to be broken because nobody was paying attention to the signs of life and the visceral moments. And therefore one has the power to discard it, to destroy it in the Pluto manner, or find new power. So.
Or uncover resources that we might have overlooked before that will help us.
Okay. Good.
And May 14th then ties all of that energy together, because the moon in Virgo is going to trine the sun in Taurus, still trine to Pluto in Capricorn. Okay.
Oh, beautiful.
So it ties it all together really nicely and gives us this potential for true mastery in the physical realm, assuming that we're moving forward in a way that is healthy and positive. And keep in mind, you were talking about the shadow side of Pluto. One of the things that we should remember is that the shadow side of Pluto is more likely to get invoked when we're trying to just grab things for ourselves and not be concerned with the larger picture and how does that connect with other people.
Well, there is that. And then again, in many ways, and I like the positive force. I mean, with all of that, is sometimes it takes, because there is a lot of structure involved, with Saturn and Pluto in the South Node, as we've been bringing up, in these crystallized forms in life, whether it's on a large social scale or just in our own life. And it takes a lot to let go of, or to break that structure when it gets to that point. And so there can be times when one purges, and it's very cathartic. It's very powerful. It is a destructive force, but it has usage. And with that, but at any rate, but I like your thoughts of the power in the moon when you're mentioning it in Virgo, because this would be a chance to really give it refinement and reorganize.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, as you're saying,
there's a lot of organizing going on with the energy of this month.
Wow. I'll have to I'll have to get prepared.
Right, but here's the thing: this is not hard taskmaster organizing, because right after that grand trine that I just mentioned, that grand Earth trine, May 15th, Venus moves into Taurus, and Venus is the ruler of Taurus, and she is all about fun. And it's not just a matter of fun as this frivolous thing, people thinking of, okay, Venus being into pleasure and fun and love and beauty and attraction, and although that's also frivolous. No. Remember, Venus is most importantly about values, okay? So she wants us to enjoy what we're doing when we're connecting with our resources, but also to deepen our values, okay? And she can help us to have fun with coming up with new ways of relating to the earth, treating our planet and ourselves and each other with love and respect, and reveling in the beauty of the world that we have and the world that we can envision.
Oh, Madam Ximon, yes. That's so beautifully put. I really think so, because Taurus, when you say this with the ruler of Venus, it's for our life. Life is so much more enjoyable if it's being supported. If we're receiving, and that's why it's comfortable. That's perfect. Yes.
And then that same day, Mars enters Cancer. So that gives us a greater ability to make our actions more in alignment with our hearts, and oriented toward family and community, so that we can find the people who are best suited to help us realize our visions for ourselves and our planet. Okay. In the process, create a world where the emotional and spiritual realities are vitally connected with our practical realities. And also that same day, you've got Mercury in Taurus sextiling Neptune in Pisces. So that helps us to communicate with more compassion and sympathy as we're doing all of this.
And when you say that day, that's the 13th or 14th?
That's the 15th.
Oh, the 15th.
Okay, so we've got this cluster of events going on around mid-May in the heavens.
Right after Mother's Day, actually, here in the United States.
And then a couple days after that, Mercury in Taurus is trining Saturn and then Pluto.
When you say after that, are you talking on that date or another date?
I said a couple days after that, so May 17th and 18th. And Mercury in Taurus is going to be trining first Saturn, then Pluto. So that really helps our minds to get organized and uncover information that's going to help us to revise our relationship with our material resources and our physical well-being. Don't forget that this governs our bodies, okay? And with that trine from Mercury to Pluto, that helps us to really communicate powerfully to those who need to hear what we're doing with these ideas that we've developed as a result of Uranus's inspiration, contacting Mercury the week before.
Well, there is a very strong, because I was asking, like on the 17th, the Sun and Mercury, our will and our mental faculties in Taurus, very closely trining that whole group, the trio, the Pluto, the Saturn, the Pluto of transformation, the Saturn of form, and the south node of where we've been coming from, is because that cycle for folks with the nodes is 18 months. And so it's where our history, where we're coming from as a group, which is very rule oriented and structure oriented and goal oriented, ambition. I mean, it's a positive. I always say every strength becomes a weakness if it doesn't get, if it's not complemented in some way. So but what you're saying is you'd think the practicality of coming up with ideas, such as you initiated this idea with the new moon as of today, would be very powerful during those 2 days, May 17 and 18.
Well, and then here's the thing, is that the full moon in Scorpio happens on May 18th. So when you're looking at the process of intention setting with the new moon, effectively between the new moon and the first quarter and then the full moon, there's this process of growing that intention into fullness, okay? And so with the full moon in Scorpio, which happens as Venus conjoins Uranus and Taurus, so bringing back that Uranian energy, and really having the ruler of Taurus being right there with what Uranus is asking.
In her own sign, too.
In her own sign, yeah. That combination gives us this great opportunity to combine creative fertility with yes, okay, and really sink down into our feelings about the changes that we want to see in the world and just how we want to embody them.
Yeah, or using, I was thinking too, using music, using art, because Taurus is a nonverbal, it's before Gemini. And so using those visual or the sound can really inspire.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is also why I like to emphasize that working with Taurus, it helps to work with your habits. And a huge part of, how we've gotten to where we are with the world in such a difficult state as far as pollution and that goes is habits, okay? So for example,
we have about a minute. Make it quick. And this is Madam Simon, Bainbridge Island, May 4th, repeated on May 9th. Speaking about resources, you've got it.
So what I want to encourage us to do moving forward and, setting our intentions for this lunar cycle, I want to encourage us to work on applying the principle of change to our physical habits slowly and steadily, a bit at a time, taking advantage of the aspects that are coming up this month to help us with our organization. And not pushing ourselves too far at once on any given day, but just making small adjustments.
That's perfect. We must thank you, Madam Simon. You really put together, and it was a very powerful talk. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you, Sue.
All right.
Thank you for listening to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and guests unveil astrology's ancient archetypes that continually build the collective experiences in our unconsciousness. Be sure to tune in next Saturday at 6 p.m. to continue finding your roots in the stars.